Even though I'm supposed to be working on my essay and not making a video, I am dedicated enough to put my studies aside for you guys. Okay, I'm gonna try and make this a quick video so I can write my essay, which you can see I started. There goes my pencil. I started writing notes for. It's comparing Lolita to Felicia's journey. It's really special. Anyway, so this week I'm reviewing the Amber Spyglass, which, patience, I actually read recently. Apparently I've been cheating and I haven't known that I'm supposed to read the book every week. Oops. Okay, so this is the last installment in the His Dark Materials trilogy, and as you can see, it is the biggest one. This edition is jam-packed full of action. It does not stop from the beginning until the end. All that stuff that was building up in the subtle knife is now exploding. You've got, just to interrupt myself very quickly, I'm going to be giving away some spoilers, so if you are very adamant about not knowing what goes on in the books before you read them, and you haven't read the Amber Spyglass, stop listening to me right now. Everything I say after this is going to be a spoiler. If you do want to see the rest of my video, however, scroll through it until you get to the screen that tells you I'm done spoiling Philip Pullman's masterpiece. So like the other two novels, what I like about this is that when you are introduced to the Amber Spyglass, the Golden Compass and the Subtle Knife don't just disappear. Unlike the Subtle Knife and the Golden Compass, the Amber Spyglass is not a tool that you can really use to defend yourself or help yourself along the path. Mary Malone uses it only to see dust. There are several parts of this book that are absolutely wonderful and beautiful and make the entire trilogy perfect. One of them is when God dies, and God does die in this third installment. It is a really beautiful scene, and what I like about it is you would think that when God dies that it would be this big, you know, God is dying. But what it is this poor old man that was trapped in glass and not even knowing who he is. Will and Lyra open the cage, and he's so old and so frail that his body breaks apart and scatters in the wind, and he's so happy at the end, and nobody notices that God is dead. And I like that because, I don't know, it was very beautiful. I liked it. Also, all those Lee Scoresby fans, the part where Lee Scoresby comes out of the land of the dead and, to hear my neighbors, anyway, and the particles of his being scatter and find Hester's particles, that was really nice. I think I cried a little bit when I read that. And of course, you can't like this book without adoring the bittersweet ending between Will and Lyra. I don't know if there was any other way that this novel could have ended. I don't know if I would have been satisfied if Will and Lyra ended up together. And I would like to ask anybody who has read this novel, do you think Will and Lyra have sex at the end? Or do they just fall in love? Because I mean, they don't fall in love until Mary Malone tells them that story about after she stopped being a nun, which I guess is why Dust calls her the serpent. But does that mean that they have sex, or do they just kiss and realize that they're in love with one another and that's enough? Because Dust is attracted to people when they have a concept of self and they're more self-aware. So would being in love be enough to make the Dust come to them and have their demons not change, or do they have to have sex in order for that to happen? And also, for anyone who's read the novel, I'm really interested in knowing the answer to this question, which I don't have an answer for, and it was one of the questions I had throughout the novel. When Will and Lyra go to the land of the dead, Lyra follows her death, and that's what leads them there. But now that they're out of the land of the dead, what happens to Lyra? Like, does her death go back to her? Does she get a new death? Does she live forever because she doesn't have a death? Like, what is going to happen? Like, what happened to her death? Also, here's another question. I have a lot of questions that I want to hear from you guys. If anybody has read these books, who's your favorite character? Also, do you think that Mrs. Coulter and Lord Asriel make up for everything that they've done the whole 2 books at the end when they battle with Metatron. My favorite character ended up being Balthimus, because he was just kind of like that smart-ass angel, and you don't really expect that from angels, and he was kind of like, pfft, whatever. And also the way that he redeems himself for being a coward when when Will really needed him, and taking out Father Gomez in the end. That was pretty awesome. Though I must say, Eric Bernison is pretty up there, right next to Lee Scoresby, I think. So, I mean, tell me who your favorite character is. I really, really enjoyed this book. This was the best one out of the whole series. I recommend it to everyone, and you really should read them in order. They flow more, like I've said before, like a Lord of the Rings instead of a Harry Potter, which always begins when Harry is home and then goes when he's at school. And I keep looking at the book as if it has the answers. And I understand why a lot of people are against the book because of that anti-religion, and the 3rd book is definitely the most anti-religion, and at some point I think it actually states in the book, how the world was wonderful until Christianity came and like ruined everything. So it is very explicitly anti-Christian, very much. But if you can look past that and read the novel as it is, just a fiction novel, it has no authority, which is what they call God, the authority. And you also find out in the book that it is not God that's ruling everything. It's this angel called Metatron. And Metatron says that he made everybody when he is just the oldest angel. So like something made him, and you don't really know what goes on with that. So please go and read this book. And also, if you get the whatever the cheap one is that I got, the 3 books, if you see here, the 3 books make a picture, and I think it just says His Dark Materials. Unrelated to the Amber Spyglass, there's also another book that's kind of related, kind of not related to the series. It takes place 2 years after the end of the Amber Spyglass, and it's called, where is it? Lyra's Oxford. It's really like a super duper short story about Lyra and what she's been doing after the events of the Amber Spyglass. The way I took it is that this is kind of like the chocolate after a bad breakup. Like the series ends and you're really upset because so much has happened and you're emotionally distraught, and then you have this book that's kind of like, here, feel better, and you won't get any weight from consuming it. It's just a story, and it also has other stuff. Let's see if I can grab some stuff. It's got this pull-out map, if I can pull it out without like destroying anything. It's got this pull-out map of Lyra's home. It's also got in the back postcard. It's a postcard from Mary Malone with like her writing on the back. It's just a whole bunch of extra stuff. So if any questions, I guess, that are lingering behind, that really doesn't answer any questions from the series, any major questions. It's just kind of that nice little like, here's a little bit more about Lyra. Will does not feature in this. She mentions Will, but that's about it. It's just really Lyra. So I mean, if you're a big fan of the series, you can read it. It's kind of like, you know, in the Harry Potter series, that those 2 books that she published for a fundraiser that are like the Magical Beasts book and the History of Quidditch. And lastly, if you don't get the books separately and you get them in one of those complete anthologies like they've done for Narnia and Lord of the Rings and everything, I believe one of them has kind of like extra stories at the end of each book. And it's just kind of like teeny weeny little snippets that are just like little tastes of what you just finished. So if any of you are interested in kind of that extra detail, don't buy them separately, buy the huge anthology. That's where they're found. So I'm really sorry that this video was so crappy, and I will try and make it up to you by showing you some bloopers of me messing up a whole bunch during the video because I didn't make a script. Enjoy, and I will see you all next week. It is both the clean up during the Amber War. So in this first and it works. Great job, Mary Malone. Should start when I hit the start. The bittersweet ending with I had a third one. I don't remember. I'm sorry. My favorite character ended up, it's kind of like those, almost like a Beetle the Bard sort of thing, you know, that extra kind of, I'm rambling, I'm gonna stop talking now.